Okie dokie, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this next lesson. Just a quick little recap. I did some coding behind the scenes. I took out the fixed rate. So this used to just say, well, let me roll it back. So it used to be this. So the fixed rate was set to 5,000. That was hard-coded, meaning 5 seconds or 5,000 milliseconds. And what I did was I added in this variable called API ping rate. I set a default to 300,000, which means 5 minutes. And then I changed this to be fixed rate string as opposed to fixed rate. Fixed rate takes a long value. Fixed rate string allows for a string value. And then I injected this environment variable path. So I added a new variable called API ping rate, and I injected that value into the edit configurations in here. At the very end, I put API ping rate at 10,000, which means every 10 seconds. So basically what this means is if you don't include an API ping rate as a variable, it will be defaulted to... well, actually, that might not be true. Sorry, this is wrong. It's not even using this at all. I just realized that as I was going through that. It's not even using that at all because we're just using the variable here. So yeah, it'll just use the variable that you pass in as the environment variable, and there is no default value, so you got to include one. So that's how I did that there. And then what else did I do? Oh, in the mock API, no, not the mock API, in the course report scheduler? No, the service. Where's the service? Show me the service. Here. I took the course report API URL that's at like localhost 8080. I took that out and I made it into I externalized it as a variable as well. So it is set to localhost 8080 slash mock API, right? Localhost 8080 here. So API.url equals localhost 8080 mock API. So that's what we had in there before, but now that allows me to externalize it when I publish it. And guess what? Let's talk publishing. So how do you take this app from localhost and put it onto the interwebs? There's a bajillion different ways that you can do this. One of the easier ways that I found is using an app called Railway. And here, Railway. So railway.app. I'm not affiliated with these people at all. I maybe should be. I maybe should reach out to them and see if I can do some sort of partnership where if you sign up, I can get you a code to sign up and get you a discount or something. I'll look into that. But I use these guys and they're pretty good. It doesn't require a ton of know-how to get this stuff up and running. So this next part of the series will be all about using Railway. Now, it's not completely simple. You're going to need to know some stuff like Docker, and we're going to fumble. I'm definitely going to fumble. This is not in my wheelhouse. This is not something I do day in and day out, and I can do and code in my sleep. This part is maybe something I've done like 3 or 4 times total in my entire career. So for like a real world project. So I'm gonna make mistakes here. If you want to go and learn about how to publish an app from some other creator who is really, really good at this, they have a whole course on it and so on and so forth, and they won't fumble and make mistakes, and so yeah, go for it. Stop watching the series. This is from now on, here on out, we're just gonna be publishing the app. But if you like watching me, if you like watching the way I create these kinds of tutorials, and if you will forgive me and watch me as I bumble through this and make mistakes, and if that is valuable to you, keep on watching. You have been warned. So let's get making mistakes. So inside of here, you have to sign up for it, right? So if you go to railway.app, you'll have to create an account. I'm sure I don't need to show you how to create an account. I'm sure you've created accounts everywhere on the internet a bajillion times. So I'm going to start a new project. And basically, they have all these different things that you can do. You can deploy from a template, which maybe. No, you know what? I'm just going to deploy from GitHub repo. So this is sort of like that's sort of like the start from scratch, although empty project is start from scratch. But deploying from a GitHub repo is my idea of somewhat starting from scratch. So for this one, I'm going to choose the course report. How would I do this again? Is it Coders Campus? Configure GitHub app. Configure GitHub app? Let's try that. So, and where is this published? I think I published it at the Coders Campus. thingy. Right? Yeah, it seems like it's on and configured. So the repositories, yeah, this guy. I want to do this. Maybe I just have to grab the URL. So I'll copy this URL and go back here. Can I just paste in the URL? Ah, there we go. Okay, so you just paste in the URL for the thing that you want to deploy and say deploy repo, and it will start deploying it. Now, I don't think it's going to be successful unless it has some voodoo in there that makes it successful, because I don't have any Docker information in there. So I don't know if it'll know how to deploy it, because I think it has to use Docker. So let's click on it. When you click on it, it shows you that there's deployments happening, and you can click on View Logs. So you can see exactly how it's being built. And it looks like, I mean, it looks like it's doing something. We could scroll up to the top here and see what it's doing. But yeah, it looks like it's probably invoking the Maven build. So it did build it. Cool. And it's doing a Docker run. Interesting. And publishing the image. Yeah, it's pushing an image. So somehow it's created a Docker image, and it's figured that out all by itself. Now, if all goes well, it'll flip over to the deploy logs, and it'll actually start publishing the app. So if I flip over to deploy logs, we'll see if, oh my gosh, it's starting Spring Boot. Holy cow. Now, this is going to fail because we don't have any of the environment variables set up. And it's trying to communicate with a database and won't be able to communicate with. But holy cow, guys, that was like way easier than I thought. You see why I like this stuff? Anyway, famous last words, you know, it might still get hard from here. But this is a really, really positive start, in my opinion. So let's go over here. So in the application properties file, it's going to try to connect to, oh, I see, MySQL host. Okay, so let's create a MySQL instance. So in here, let's right click and say database, and we'll say add MySQL, and it just says spinning up MySQL. Like, how easy is this? This is like so nice. Successfully added. So click on this MySQL instance and you see it's deploying it. We'll say view the logs. So it's starting. Root localhost is created with an empty password. Please consider switching off the initialize insecure option. Okay. So I'm gonna have to set up. I'm gonna have to set this up in some way, shape, or form. And again, this is where I'm gonna fumble around. So you'll have to forgive me as I fumble. Deploy logs. So how do I know what the password and everything? Is it in data? Required variables, you have no tables, variables. Oh, I see. So there is details. There are details here about the password, and you can change the password, right? So if I click on view, that's currently the password, right? And if you click on host, that's currently the host. So with this information, the port, the user, all this stuff, now I'll have to change this because I'm actually going to use this information. I'll have to change the information here. Because obviously I don't want to publish it on the internet. But yeah, this is good stuff. So this will allow me to plug in my variables. So let me just, how about this? I'll set this up now. I'll get it working now with all the configurations and settings now. And then after I'm done shooting, I will change all the passwords and everything and the usernames. And so, yeah, you won't be able to guess them. But yeah, that's what I'll do for now. So that way you can see it working and happening. So if we go to data, you have no tables. So we can create a table or read the docs. Well, here's the thing. I need to have a database created, right? So the database that it's expecting to connect to is this one. So in order to connect to this, to create this database, like I want to do more than just creating a table, right? Like I want to create a database. Restart, redeploy, remove variables. MySQL. Oh, I think this is the name of the database, Railway. So if I say edit, and I change this to be hard-coded to course report API and hit save, it's going to apply, it's going to have the change ready to deploy, but it's not going to deploy it yet. When I'm ready, I can click deploy. So I'm going to click on deploy, and it's going to take this change that I made and deploy it, and then hopefully that will create that database inside of I guess the schema inside of my database. So I'm gonna assume, and what's this? Why are these the same? MySQL database, yeah. Let me change this one as well, because I don't like that they're both Railway. I'd rather have them not say Railway, and I'll say apply. Now it's going to be deploying 2, right? Because I just said deploy, and then I said deploy again. Yeah, so it has 2 going. Although 1 is active, so this one hopefully should get up and running correctly. And then, yeah, see it says completed, and it shuts this one down. Okay, so let's assume that that is set up correctly. So now over here, this one's crashed. It makes sense because there's no variables. This is where you put in your environment variables, right? So we can add the variables. So it's looking for something called MySQL host, right? Which is the host name to connect on port 3306, which I don't know. Is it port 3306? MySQL port? No, it's not. Shoot. So that needs to change. So let's, oh boy, let's do this. MySQL port or 3306 if one is not provided. Like that. Yeah. So now I'm going to push this change, and I'm going to call this, so these are the changes that I've made, right? So I'm going to call this changes for Railway deployment. All right, and now these videos are going to go long. The beauty is when I push this change, watch, I'm going to push it to the main branch, and as soon as I push it in Railway, this guy over here should realize that there's been a change to the main branch and then start doing a deployment. If it's connected correctly. Maybe, you know, I have to go to settings. Source repo is this one. Add a root directory. Branch connected to production, repo not found. Okay, so there is no branch chosen. Changes made to this GitHub branch will automatically be pushed to the environment. Yeah, so use for build and deploy steps. So how do I tell it to link up? Watch. Pass, git ignore style, deploy, custom start command, region, replicas, cron schedule, health check. Yeah, so I'll have to look into how you can hook it up so that it will automatically deploy, because it should deploy another one automatically, but I'll click on redeploy. Are you sure you want to redeploy this deployment? This will rebuild and deploy your code with the exact same configuration. Well, no, I wanted to pick up the change I made. So upstream repo, source repo, Coders Campus, course report API integration, branch connected to production. So we need to figure out how to do that. So Railway app, connect branch to production or something. Deployments. Now that you understand how to tailor builds, well, I didn't really learn any of that stuff. Deployment controls. Deployments, build and run really provides controls for changing the default run behavior. Auto deploys. If you have deployed from your GitHub repo, we will automatically build. Okay, that's not helpful. Quick start. Create a project. Deploy. Domains, developing locally, install CLI, run and develop. Deploy. To deploy your current directory, run the following command. I wonder if I have to set a root directory. Configure where we should look for your code. It looks like it's looking at / by default. So in the in the GitHub repo, so if I say github/coderscampus, and I go to repositories and I go to the course report API integration, I mean, should I look at /source? I feel like it should be able to find it with just that /. Oops. Where'd it go? This one? If I put just / and then deploy, check for updates. You're on the latest version of the repository. Command that will be run to start the new deployments. Yeah, I'm not sure. Okay. So yeah, it's building because we need to give it a so the variables we need to give it a variable. So we need to give it this MySQL port and MySQL host. So let's add a new variable. So MySQL host will be something. It'll be the host here. So MySQL host is this, right? And that will be, injected into there. So I think that's correct. So we can go over here to variables, new variable, MySQL host is that. Add, and then MySQL port is this. Although I wonder if I could use their own variables. I could probably use their own variables. Let me test this. So if I say MySQL _port and then say $ blah blah MySQL this, right? And I say add. If I say view, and then edit, MySQL host, right? And if I say deploy that, it might grab the variable and inject it properly, right? So if I click on view, it's not letting me view it. All right, let's cancel this build because that's the older one. This, give it a moment to, there. Let's go to variables. Yeah, see, look, it grabbed the right value. Good, excellent. So that works. Nice. Okay, so we still have more to do, right? So we have that'll help it connect to the database, but we also need all of these variables. So let's copy them and paste them here. Oop, jeez. Paste them here for now. Right? So we need Slackbot token. Oh, right. I need to put that in there. Oh, man. I don't have a Slackbot token. Or I do, I just don't want to share it with you guys what my Slackbot, my real Slackbot token is and my real Slack, channel ID. I guess we could just use the existing one. Yeah, let's just do Slack API.Slack apps. So we'll regenerate. So the course report bot got uninstalled. See, it says install your app. It's no longer a green checkbox. They removed it for me. So I'm going to re-add and reinstall this course report bot. There we go. Now we'll have in the OAuth and permissions, we have the bot token here. We're going to copy that. That can be used in the Railway app as a variable. In here, we can say, what was it? Slack.bot.token. Slack.bot.token is that. And again, the reason why I'm showing that to you is because I'm going to get rid of that. That's just an example. Account. So That's okay. Slack channel, no, the channel ID is still the same. So that we can paste back in. Where's my, so we can say, what is it called? Slack.channelid. New variable, slack.channelid. Paste. Cool, cool. Now we're going to have to go back into that Slack channel and re-add the bot, or the app. So let's reinstall the app, which, oh, how do you do that again? How do I install an app again? Here. Tools, manage apps. Course report. Well, it seems like it's in there, right? Open an app directory. Open in Slack. Open. So here's the course report bot. Okay. Now, for this guy, I want to be able to... How did I do this before? There we go. So it took a moment, right? Now there's an apps section, and now he's in here. Now I can right-click and say view the app details, and I can say add app to a channel, and I can say add them to example app. So that's sort of the really roundabout way to do it. So anyway, so now he's added again. I don't know why I'm saying he. It is added again to the channel. Cool, cool, cool. And we've got the bot ID for him, or the token is saved, and that is saved. Now we need the API URL. Now here's the problem. I guess we can have it refer back to itself with a local host. Well, but it's not. Is it going to be localhost? I mean, it might work. Let's copy this and use that as the API.url. It might work because it has its own mock API built into it. So let's add a new variable, API.url, I think, and then localhost 8080. Is it API.url? API.url and API.ping rate. We'll have to set that to, I don't know. I guess 10,000 is okay. So boom, bada boom, bada boom, bada boom. Let's say deploy and see how that works. I'm not sure if localhost 8080 is going to work because I don't know if it's going to deploy on port 8080, but we will find out. So let's go to deployments, and we see it's building a new one. So let's sit back, relax, and have a look. Have no idea if this is going to work. Let's go to MySQL and go to data. Database connection. We are unable to connect the database over the public network. Can you connect using this command? Question mark. Interesting. Variables, metrics, settings. We'll have to see if this can connect properly or not. I haven't checked to see if it could connect to the database. We could still have a bunch of problems, but we'll see once it boots up. The other thing that we should keep in mind here is we should have different environments. Like we should have a local environment and a production environment, and we should have our code set up such that it can handle that. But anyway, I guess it's kind of not really a problem because we do have these as externalized. Oh, but it's using username and password. So yeah, this is not going to work, right? So I think in the application properties, we're going to have a production environment application properties and a local one. So how do you do that again? I think you need to name it application-prod. Because yeah, I still don't think it's going to be able to connect to the database because I think it's going to be using root as the username and password to connect to the database. I think. Yeah, I can't imagine it would be able to connect to the database because I haven't supplied it with the information it needs to connect to the database. It does say it's active, though, which is interesting. And the Tomcat port is not 8080. So that mock API endpoint won't work. There we go. Now there's a failure. Okay. So the failure is, yeah, communication link failure. It can't connect to the database. So that's not surprising. Okay. So we need to we need to do a few things. Is the Tomcat port something we can inject? Because that would be nice to do for the API URL, so it can talk to itself. Although I guess it could talk to itself through. There is if you go to the Git whatever, go to settings. There's a private networking, right? Communicate with this service from within the Railway network. So you can have it talk to itself using this as the as like a what you call it, a domain, so to speak. So we could probably use that inside of this. Okay, so let me think. What do I need to do? Yeah, we need to have the correct username and password for the database. So one problem at a time here. So let's figure out let's first solve the database issue, which is how do you make different profiles? So Spring profiles, and then application properties. There's a way to name them. So we need to create profiles. And application dot properties. There's a way to name the dot property. Is there only one dot properties? Yeah, here, application-dev.properties. Okay, I thought that's what it was. I just want to confirm. So let's copy-paste this file. I copy-pasted itself, so it's going to make a copy. And this is going to be application hyphen and then the name of the profile, the environment. I'm going to call it prod. So we're going to have two files, two application properties files. The first one is going to represent the local DB version, local profile. Which is the default one that gets fired up if you do not specify a profile. This one will be the prod version, right? So the prod version does not use root. So we will need to grab the actual password from the MySQL data or variables. So MySQL root password. I think I just need MySQL user is root. Okay, MySQL password is this guy. Copy. So it is root, and this is the password, and I'm putting this in the prod version. So that should now work in terms of connecting to the database, assuming that this database was created, and we'll have to find out if that actually was created properly. Cool. So that's how you do that. And now what we do over back in this guy, we go to variables, and in variables we can have a new environment variable called spring.profiles.active, right? And then you can say prod. So what we're doing is we're saying, hey, Mr. Container here, you are prod, right? So when I say deploy, when it deploys this guy, and it starts booting up, you will have a line in the deploy logs. We'll see that it says, oh, I recognize this profile as being the production, the prod profile, and it will then load these properties, right, which has our correct password for our prod database. All right, so let's see if that is able to at least solve the problem of connecting to the database. If it does solve the problem of connecting to the database, I believe we will still have the next problem of it's not going to connect to the mock API endpoint correctly. So the this guy that we set up in here, the API URL, this localhost port 8080 is going to be wrong. The port is wrong. I guess we can go in and edit this and see, can we find out what the port should be? So we can do a double thing here, and I can say, I don't even know. Yeah, if I just put port, it just knows MySQL port. So if I put Tomcat, yeah, it doesn't see Tomcat, so, or Java, yeah. So, yeah, so we're gonna have to use the what you call it? in the settings, this guy, right? This private networking. So the private networking, we have this guy. I just copied it. And if we go into, where was it? API URL, edit, instead of localhost 8080, I'm going to paste in. So it's course report API integration.railway.internal. And then it's hopefully going to figure out what port it should be. It might be HTTPS. I think it's going to be secured. And then it's /mock API. So let me hit play on that, or check on that. I'm not going to deploy it just yet because I want to see the current deployments. If it was able to identify. So look, the following profile is active, prod. So now we are on prod. Good. But it still failed to communicate with the database. So we're going to have to find out why that is. Could not obtain connection to query metadata. Engine, because the return value of blah is null. Okay, well, is it null because it just can't connect to the database? Yeah, it's just saying communication link failure. Okay, so why that is a problem first. That we need to figure out why it can't connect to the database. And it's just going to keep on restarting to try to connect to the database, and it's not going to work. So the variables, MySQL host, MySQL port. So let's, instead of having it be a variable here, since we're using a prod profile, let's copy this host. Let's just get rid of variables, right? Get rid of what we're not sure about. Let's just physically paste in that as the host and grab the port and physically paste in the port, right? So it's monorail, blah, 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 course DB. And the other thing we can do is we could use these details over here in, sorry for the bright screen. We can go to do a new connection. So we can say new connection. There we go. It's like I clicked on it. We'll call this, connection, the course report prod. So the host name is this, right? This was the MySQL host. Boom. Port. Boom. Username was root. Password is this. Password, store in vault, paste, okay. Default schema, whatever. We'll test the connection and see if it connects. Yeah, beautiful. So it can connect. There it is, course report prod. So if we go into here, I'm just getting warnings with version warnings and stuff. So I just say don't worry about the warnings. Okay, so there's only a railway app in here. There is no DB for this one, the course report API DB. So that's interesting. I thought that would have booted up and had that. So let me just say create database blah, right? So that's the database. I've created it. If I refresh it, boom, there it is. So that could have maybe been the reason why it was not able to connect. Not sure, but I also hard-coded this stuff as well because we know this works, right? We just did it. We just connected to it. It definitely works. So that's fantastic. So let's do that. Let's check in the changes. And again, I'm just going to go to the history here, grab the whatever, last comment, and I'm just going to keep using the same comment because I'm lazy. I'll commit it to the main branch, push, and now, and again, I'm wondering, why is it that it's not auto-deploying? And what was the change again that we did here? Oh yeah, the API. Let me say deploy. But now I'm not sure. Has it picked up my latest changes? I don't know. I assume it will. But, because, yeah, I used the same comment. I probably should have changed the comment so that I know that it did pick up the latest version of the code. But I don't see any reason why it wouldn't have picked up the latest version of the code. Let's see. Isn't this journey fun, ladies and gentlemen? DevOps. Always a pain in the butt. But let me tell you, comparatively speaking, or relatively speaking, this versus setting everything up and deploying it in something like AWS, like night and day difference. This struggle I'm going through, like I might be able to get this done in an hour. Versus, I don't know how many days it would have taken me to do this before. You know, like the advancement in technology and tools to make our jobs easier as developers these days is just such a pleasure. I absolutely love it. Anyway, famous last words. We'll see if I'm still singing the praises of Railway in about 30 minutes. So we'll see how it goes. So hopefully what we'll see here is that when it deploys and boots up the server, there it goes. It's able to connect to that database. So we've hard-coded the connection string, right? And we have we've hard-coded the connection string. We've made sure that that database, the right name of the right database, was created. I see it says starting, and it's not doing anything else, so that doesn't feel great to me. Yeah, so something. It's still a communications link failure. Why? Scroll. Yeah, connection timed out. Cannot invoke. So now I'm wondering, is there anything else in my setup that's wrong? So let's try for... let's grab that error. Where was that error? Connect timed out. This. Let's grab this. Let's head over to our trusty friend ChatGPT. And let's say, you know, I'm trying to deploy an app onto railway.app. I'll say a Java app onto Railway, whatever. But the deployment is having trouble connecting to the MySQL database container that's also running inside the same private Railway network. The error I'm getting in the logs is blah. Let's see if it can interpret that. The issue might not be directly related to database connectivity. It could be a symptom of a misconfiguration, okay, or an initialization issue with your application. So verify that the database URL, username, password, and your application configuration match those provided. Railway generates these credentials. Use the internal host name. Since the database is running within the same private network on Railway, make sure you're using the internal host name or service name provided by Railway for the MySQL container. This is often different than the public host name. Yeah, and that's why I'm using this right here. This is the internal guy. Hibernate. Data source configuration. Double check that your Hibernate or Spring Boot application data source configuration. Ensure that it's correctly set up to use the database credentials and URL. Well, that's these guys. Okay, I mean, I can double check them. Entity Manager Factory. If you're manually setting up, we're not. Transaction Management. Log database connection. Temporary log database connection details, excluding sensitive information at startup. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Enable Hibernate SQL logging. Private networking. Verify the private network setup within Railway is correctly configured to allow communication between your app and the MySQL container. Although this is usually handled by Railway, it's good to check if the settings... okay, I can. Yeah, so this doesn't... Not really that helpful. Let me double check the password. But like I just used the password, right? I used it to manually connect to the MySQL instance. MySQL private URL. Interesting. Well, let's try this guy. Right? I don't think we need this because we're already supplying the username and password separately. But this MySQL Railway internal is different than what we had before. Right? We had monorail proxy, whatever. Oops. Let's try that. I think that's different. So let's publish the changes, and when we publish, let's add an increment to this. So let's say changes for Railway deployment 2. I'll commit that to main and push. So over here, if we choose to, what does this mean? Latest deploy. Well, it just goes to latest deploy. Can I say read, add variable, attach volume, update config? Branch connected production. I don't know why this is bothering me, because usually it picks it up and deploys immediately. Let's do another chat. I'm trying to deploy an app on railway.app to deploy a Java app via a GitHub repo that I've connected. However, when I push changes to the main branch in my GitHub repo, Railway isn't automatically deploying those changes. Is there some sort of configuration that I need to do in order to enable this feature? Let's see. Set up the integration between Railway and GitHub. Here are the steps. Connect your GitHub repository to Railway. So first, make sure that your GitHub repository is correctly connected to your Railway project. You can do this from the Railway dashboard. If you haven't done this yet, go to your project settings, find integrations, and connect your GitHub account. I'm pretty sure I've done that. Then select the repository you want to deploy. Enable auto deployments. Okay, once your repository is connected, you need to enable automatic deploys. Look for a setting in Railway project settings after under deployments or similar. Okay, so settings, sorry, what did it say? It said, look for a setting in the Railway project settings, often under deployments, that mentions automatic deployment or continuous integration. Ensure that setting is enabled and configured to watch the main branch. Yeah, so that's the problem, is it's not connected to the main branch. Configure a Railway if needed. Okay, because I don't have a Railway YAML file. So, Railway project settings under deployment. What would the custom... Yeah, there's no custom start command. Region, replica, cron schedule, no. Health check, meh. Restart policy. So I don't see anything there. That mentions automatic deployment. Ensure that the setting... So what is this? Yeah, I might need to do that. Anyway, let's not get bogged down in those details yet. It's not the end of the world if it's not auto-deploying. So if I just say redeploy, will it pick up... Yeah, see, it says externalizing other vars, but it doesn't... It's not picking up... yeah, this is the wrong branch. Or, yeah, it's not the up-to-date branch. So that's not what I want. I want to grab the latest one. Now, if I just change this and say source, then it'll deploy a new one, right? I can manually click on deploy, and it should pick up the new one that says externalizing other vars 2. That's the point, is we want it to pick up the one that says the number 2 on it. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be picking up the changes, which could definitely be the source of all of our pain and suffering. Is that it's just not getting our changes. Interesting. Yeah, because we've pushed the changes. Yeah, changes for railway deployment 2. And it definitely is not connecting to the right one. Okay. If I say disconnect... and then connect repo. Configure GitHub app. Well, maybe I need to configure it. Oh, repository access. Only select repositories can be added. Oh, that could be the problem. Instead of all repositories, I'm giving a select access. So I could say course report API integration and say save. Right? And then I could say connect repo and say course report API. There you go. Ugh. All right. Good to know. Now it should auto deploy. There you go. When I push changes. Oh, I wonder how much of the pain and suffering we just went through together was because of that one issue. It wasn't picking up the changes I made, which means it makes sense why it couldn't connect to the database, right? Because it wasn't, I probably did have the right path, but it didn't pick up the changes. That definitely could have been the root cause of our problem. Again, famous last words. Let's find out. So we'll let it run. Well, the hope is here that we get a different error, right? The hope is we see a new error pop up, or obviously no errors at all. Wouldn't it be lovely if it just worked? There's a possibility, right? If it properly connects to the database, and it correctly uses, I correctly use the right API URL to use the private network and everything, it's possible that this could work. All right, so... okay. Yes. Connection refused. So this is a different error. So hopefully that means it successfully connected to the database. I guess we'll know if it connected to the database if it created the tables that we expect in the database. Let's refresh over here and expand this, oh, we have tables. There it is, contact match. Excellent. So it's able to connect to the database. Sweet. So we got past that error. So now, IO error on GET request for HTTPS core support API integration connection refused. So, I mean, it could be that it's not HTTPS. Oh, why is there a... Did I include a... Okay, no. Sorry, where's the... So that's not working. If I say just HTTP... Oh, right, I can't do internal. Right, I can't connect to it from here because it's an internal path. So maybe instead of saying... sorry, it's in the configuration in variables. Instead of saying that the API URL is HTTPS, we could throw a curveball at it and say, how about just course report API integration railway internal mock API? I don't know. And we'll click deploy on that guy and see if that works. All right, so here it goes, starting up. Looks like there's still an error. Is it connecting? Okay, URI is not absolute. Right. Yeah, that does make sense. So the URL that we provided has to be an absolute URL, which means we can't have it just be have nothing in front of it. So I wonder if it just has to be HTTP://. I don't know, man. Let's try that one and deploy that change and see if that makes any difference at all. Okie dokie. So here it goes, starting up again. Oh, let's hope it can connect. And again, it says connection refused. So, okay, so alternatively, I think what I'm going to do, or what I can do, is just give it the URL of the actual live, endpoint. So I'll code that in, the actual endpoint, because at this point, trying to get it to connect to itself is a bit silly. So whatever, I'll just have it, connect to the correct one, and then I'll come back and see if that gives us any momentum forward. Okay, so here we go, and yet it seems like right. Unauthorized. So this is good. This means it tried to connect to or talk to the endpoint, but one of the items on my to-do list was to include the API key in the header of the request. So the request requires a header, which I forgot about. So that's in the service. In the service, when it does the get for entity, we actually need to do something slightly different. So we need to do probably an rt.exchange, I think, because I don't know. Can you pass a? I don't think you can put a header into a get request unless you do it as an exchange. Yeah, and I always forget how to do this. So. I'll just use ChatGPT because whatever. I'd like to know how to add an authorization header to a GET request using Spring REST template in Java. Step-by-step example. Yeah, just... So Google, I don't know which is faster, Google or this. So HTTP headers. Yeah, so this is not entirely correct, but let's try this. So we can have HTTP headers. Cool, that comes from Spring Security. Sounds good. From Spring... Headers.set authorization. Headers.set authorization to be And this is we can have the API key, so the course report API key, right? Which we will have to, maybe we can just inject here. So the @ value can be the API.key. Private final string course report API key equals null. So the course report API key can come here. So boom, okay, and then what? So we have that, and then the authorize. Yeah, okay, it's giving you 2 types of whatever. Okay, here we go. HTTP entity. I never remember this stuff, so this is why I look it up and I copy paste. Eventually, I will have done this enough that I will have memorized it, but so far I have not memorized it. So for this, we need to do, yeah, see, I was saying you do an exchange. So you do an exchange, and on the exchange here, so RT, the URL is this guy. So the URL we have, like so. So that's the URL. The method is get. Yes, that's what we want to do. Correct. The entity is this guy. Now, does the entity have the... Oh, yeah, entity has the header set. For perfect. Now, it's not string class. It's returning a course report API class. Boom. And then this will be set to the response. Oh, which is already called response. What's the issue? Oh. What was it? Course report API response. So it's not string here. It's a course report API response. There. Okay. So it's essentially doing the same thing, except now it's sending an authorization header. And we're going to have to pass in an API key, right? So I will set the API key as a variable. And this one I do not want to show you, so I will pause the video. So I'll go in here into the variable section. I will have a new variable, which is called API key. Oops. API.key, and I will get that from course report and put it in here, but let me pause the video so you don't see that. Okay, so I've injected it in there. It's deploying, but I forgot to push the code. So let's push the code. So we'll say added API key in authorization header. I think it's authorization. I could be wrong with that too. So let's push. And then now when we push, hopefully what happens is it will auto deploy. Yeah, see? Now, it's deploying another one, so I'm actually going to abort this one. And it looks like it's aborted the wrong one. Oh, no, it didn't. Okay. Sometimes it just briefly looks like although I aborted this one, it looks like it flips up and... Anyway, doesn't matter. Cool, it's building, so we'll let that build, and then again, hopefully, we'll see that it successfully deploys and can connect to our endpoint. All right, so it's starting up, and look at that, it's polling the course report API. Excellent. However, it doesn't look like it's done anything with what it pulled, right? So if we go to the database, I'm going to bring the database off screen because these are going to be real data points inside the database. So I just want to make sure that if it did put data in there, that I'm not going to show it on the screen, obviously. So yeah, there's no data in the database, so which I would have gathered because there's nothing in here. So it's polling the course report API, but it doesn't seem like it's getting anything back, which is interesting. So we'll have to see. We'll have to add some debugging in there. But first of all, this is now working. Right? This is, in my opinion, the code is up and running. It's able to talk to a database and integrate with the database. I think from this point out, it's just a matter of it's a programming problem now. It's not I don't believe it is a an issue of the railway configuration. So, in my opinion, we are now done the deployment. We just need to figure out, well, there's some silly configuration somewhere or some miss that I made when I was coding in terms of the difference between the actual production URL endpoint and the mock endpoint that I created. Maybe there's some delta between there, some difference between them that I haven't coded for. So really what needs to happen now is I need to get my stuff together, figure it out, debug and whatnot. But I don't think you guys need to see that. That's not going to be interesting content in my opinion. So that's how you do it. That's how, this is a really long video, but you saw the whole process, the whole struggle from start to finish of how you get something, a real production level app up and running from localhost to production in about an hour, right? And again, guys, if I'd done this on my own and did this without teaching or recording, and I probably could have done faster. And now the next time I do this, it'll be faster. So being able to do this in like an hour or less is crazy. Like it's so nice. And I didn't even need to do any Docker stuff. It did it for me. So it's like, I cannot describe to you how incredible this is. So yeah, I'm eventually going to have to figure out how to partner with Railway, because good Lord, could I pimp out their software. It is good software. So yeah, hopefully you enjoy this whole series. Maybe there will be more videos after this. Who knows? At this point, in this exact moment, I don't plan on doing any more videos. But who knows? If there's more, then great. I can't wait to see you in the next one. And if there are no more videos, thanks for making it all the way to the end. I can't, what dedication you as a viewer have to make it all the way to the end if you did watch all of the videos in this series. If you really enjoyed it, go to coderscampus.com and check out our website and check out our bootcamp. Maybe you'd be a good fit for our bootcamp, or maybe one of our beginner course type products or toolkits or whatever it is that we have available. Check it out. You might like some of the actual, paid stuff that we have available. If you enjoy the free stuff, you're going to love the paid stuff is what I'm saying. So if you want to get to essentially level up your skills as a full stack developer, that's what our specialty is, right? We help people, teach people the stuff that they need to know to get their first job as a software engineer, or their first Java development job as a software engineer. So if that sounds like something that would be of interest to you, check it out, coderscampus.com. Looking forward to seeing you on the inside. Take care of yourself. Happy learning, and bye for now.